Welcome to a deep dive for the Caroline Game Summit 2021. We're going to be looking at Marx Myth, a media design and marketing teacher at the Living Arts College in Raleigh, North Carolina, for our upcoming August 6th through 8th event. Marx, thanks for joining us again tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So what we did, we've already introduced you. Everyone knows you're speaking at this year's event, and you're going to do a hands-on session teaching game development artwork for people. But what we wanted to do is we picked a couple of different art pieces, and we wanted you to talk about each one of those. You don't know these ahead of time. We've just kind of picked something that we like, and we're going to throw a couple of them up on screen and let you tell us more detail about your art style so that the upcoming Carolina Game Summit attendees should have more of an understanding of what you've done in the past.
Sure.
All right, here's our first piece. Tell us about it.
Well, everything that I've done usually starts in a sketchbook, and the little monster you see there on the unicycle was drawn by itself in an individual sketch, and then I would scan it in and I'll colorize it. Now the drawing in the background of the house is also an individual sketch that I scan in. Once I bring all of that together, I go into Photoshop and I colorize it and with colors that I think is going to be enticing, and I love color, so everything's pretty bold and vivid.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree. That photo, again, was selected because of that color depth, and it just kind of popped. It looks great on screen. The sad part is I encourage everyone who's watching this to visit cgsummit.com and think about purchasing a ticket, because as good as it looks on screen here, it looks 10 times better for the original pieces. And Marx will actually have some of his original art along with some books and different things that you can check out at the event. So let's take a look at the next piece.
Again, this is a sketch. One of the things I do pretty consistently is I have a sketchbook that's I can hold in my lap, and I draw and sketch in it. I try very hard not to ever use an eraser. I don't usually start out with pencil or anything erasable. I try to challenge myself to work with straight out ink. This seems more random and more challenging. And if I mess up, then I have to fix it. I have to find a way to make things work. That little guy there was just random shapes that I started putting together, and I started seeing a face, and I started doing one thing. And then I decided I was going to turn him into a balloon or something like that. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have somebody going to pinprick him there. But yeah, and I try to go for as much detail as I can. I think about how shading is going to occur on the form itself and how to use the line. I love texture, and I love to texturize all the surfaces of everything I do just about.
That's a unique perspective to take. People should take that and apply it to so many different things, because a lot of times if you just let the art or the job or whatever you're doing take you in a direction and you follow it, you'll end up in a much more interesting place than if you had just tried to plan something out and constrain all of the different requirements and get to a predefined endpoint. This way, it's more creative. That's fantastic. I like that story. Let's take a look at another piece of artwork here.
These are a series of drawings that I compiled. 3 of the objects that you see there are from when my kids were young, and they drew in my sketchbook. And so that was a challenge. My son used to call it adornment. I would, adorn his stuff or embellish would, I guess, be a better phrase. And my daughter was probably 4 years old when she did the little flower object up there. And my son, gosh, I guess he was similar age when the little turnip looking thing and the little creature with the glowing brain head. I go in and I see what they have done and reapply some different techniques onto it and embellish it, add a little bit more detail, keep going. And then I do the same process I mentioned earlier. I'll take I scan each one, and then I arrange them into a different composition. That is actually a small portion of a larger composition that is it got a little bit more space to it.
You mentioned in our last live stream that children automatically do this and the adults lose this ability over time. So can you go over a little bit more in detail what you were talking about when you mentioned that, and something that you'll cover during the session as well?
Exactly. I mean, I've found through the years, and I would include myself that way too. So I've had to challenge myself. Um, if you have the opportunity to constrict your creative process, you're going to be limiting what your end results will be. And if you're scared or you're afraid of judgment, a lot of times that's what I run into with students. They're afraid that they're going to do something that they can't fix. And I'm going, no, there's nothing really you can't fix. There's a lot of things you can do. And the challenge is to learn how to fix those things. That is the creative process, is how can you take something that has an error, a flaw, and make it work for you. Sometimes I will do that in a sketchbook and I'm not satisfied with what I have, but I don't do anything to it. I leave it and I'll come back to it in a couple of weeks, maybe even longer, and revisit it and see what I can do. And it offers up. I've had pieces that sat for years, and all of a sudden I see them. I go, all right, I'm going to do something with that now. And sometimes, not often, you just go over them completely and start from scratch over top of it.
Well, there's something to be said about confidence, and if you believe that you can do something, you really should be able to accomplish it. And I like that mentality that there's nothing that you really can't fix in a piece of art. There's so many options out there. We've got a couple of more pieces of art that I want to take a look at, but definitely some interesting snippets of info. And again, if we attend the full session in person at the Carolina Game Summit, you'll get many more chances to talk to Marx in person and ask him questions. This is a hands-on session. He'll be right there with you, walking you through the process of the art that you're going to be creating in his session, and you'll be asking these questions live. So let's take a look at another piece here.
Again, that is a sketchbook sketch, and that one is probably about 4 inches by 5 inches. I don't usually have big sketchbooks. I do have a few, but I find that cumbersome. I like to work fairly small, and I so use small pens, ink pens, just ballpoint pens a lot of times. These are two separate creatures that I decided to join together. They look like they would fit together, like something sprang out of the other. And then a good thing about composition is deciding how you place things. And the good thing about using a digital realm is that those are separate pieces, but once I get them inside Photoshop and start arranging them, I can alter where they are, and it makes it fit. And so your composition is expanded by adding these new elements.
That's fantastic. I like how there's a little bit of color in that little black and white. Your background in your video right now, did you create that as well?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly that. In fact, I think that's an extension of the one I just mentioned earlier that my kids helped develop, and then I went back in and created this weird landscape. I don't know. It was fun. The challenge when doing things that are unrelated is a surrealist concept. I mean, that the surrealist would take things that are random, ordinary things, but put them together, juxtaposed together, and it changes the way you see things. It's almost dream quality, and I'm really fascinated by that. And probably, I would say close to 100% of most of the stuff I do, with the exception, I do portraits as well, but not so much with the surrealist. But that is the fun part of it, is making things fit together.
One thing we haven't really taken an opportunity to talk about is your history in art and game development. Currently, you're a media design and marketing instructor at the Living Arts College. But before that, could you tell us a little bit about what you were doing and where you were?
Well, I mean, it's been an interesting journey, I guess you could say. My undergraduate degree I got at East Carolina many years ago, and it was in painting, and I double majored in art education. I worked in the public system for a while. It didn't seem to fit me really well, or maybe the system, I didn't fit the system really well. And I found out about this school that I'm teaching at now. School of Communication Arts was his name. Now it's called Living Arts College, and learned how to work on a computer. And the really fun thing about that was the placement guy, Michael Tracy, found this first job for me working for a game company. And the whole thing was just me drawing and colorizing them for portraits for a war game. And then I worked from there, and I jumped into another small company and worked. It was a war game that for the Normandy invasion, and then from there, that kind of fell apart, and I decided to go back into teaching. I did that for a while, but then I actually got lucked up. A friend of mine. Actually, I'll tell the complete truth to this. I was fired. I had a conflict with the boss, and he decided to let me go immediately. And I had never experienced that in my life. And so I had to recoup. The lesson out of this was you make a network of friends, and you make a network of your work, and you have people that know what you do. And within a week, I had another job and ended up working with Michael Crichton. He had a short-lived game company, and I was able to do concept art for that. I worked with Ron Cobb. He's like a legend, just passed a couple years ago. Did stuff for Alien and a lot of big major movies. And he was just fantastic, kind of a mentor for me. And the guys I worked with were fantastic. Jay Hawkins, James Hawkins, who's now works at Epic, it was working with me at that time, and the whole slew of people. But the beauty of it is that even though you've been trampled and you felt like your life has gone down, if you have a network, it's like a safety net of people that can help you. And I was able to land a new job, and that's what happens, especially in a small game company region like Raleigh, the Triangle area. You know people. I mean, and I've been really fortunate to know a lot of talented people in the area of different aspects, from design firms to animation teams to, just freelance artists. And it's just been fantastic. And that's what you do. You build up a whole career that way. And I eventually, as the story goes, I ended up back in teaching, and I love teaching. It's a great thing. You're passing on knowledge to somebody else.
Yeah, working in the industry is definitely different than working in the university system, college system. You get to explore a lot more about what your interests are, and then bring that perspective to the students. But all that experience sounds phenomenal, and even turning a job loss into a new opportunity that seemed to lead into some really great things is a fantastic lesson that attendees could learn and benefit from. We've got 2 more pieces of art, so let's take a look at the next one and see what your thoughts are on this one.
Again, it all starts with a sketch. I was just toying around this little guy and decided that he looked like he needed to be on a skateboard. He's this kind of funky. And so when I brought him to Photoshop, I started playing around with the background. And what you don't see is also that it is a cropped out version of a larger version that has a house in the background. And sometimes that's what you do. You have 2 different versions of the same thing. And when I get into Photoshop, I love to play with different things and textures. And one of the things I do at Living Arts College is teach a course in color construction, which works primarily with Photoshop. And I've been really fortunate to have opportunity to learn from that. You know what? Students teach you a lot. They teach you a lot. A different perspective, a different aspect, something you haven't explored. They've played with this and oh, really? I didn't know that. I've never tried that. And I've found that happen to me many times. And that's the beauty of teaching a lot of times, is that you turn it around. You're no longer the mentor, you're the mentee.
I agree. There's a lot that we have to learn from our students, and that we, if you're a great teacher, will not just try to distribute your knowledge, but also learn something back from the students and coworkers that you have. Those are another good story. We've got one more piece of art. I'd like to hear where this one came from. It's really interesting, and I can't wait to hear the story behind this one.
Again, the beauty of the sketchbook. I mean, it is a character that I just thought maybe it's a reference to the Talking Heads, and I don't know, but I just thought that was a fun thing, and he just seemed to fit into this oversized body, and I thought, wow, what if that's his space outfit, and just a dandy or something. I thought that would be fun.
You never know. Parallel universes.
Oh yeah.
That's a fantastic look at some of the art pieces, just a small selection of what Marx has done in his vast history. He's been actually involved with the Carolina Game Summit since the very first event 15 years ago. So Marx, I'm extremely excited that you've continued with us all these years, and you've brought this knowledge to our event and our attendees. Again, everyone knows it's just a single $50 ticket for 3 days of sessions.
What a bargain.
And everything's included. So all of the tournaments, all of the art sessions, all the game design sessions. And we're just so excited to be able to bring this back to Raleigh for the first time. So if you're interested and you want to get some more information, just visit cgsummit.com. The event is August 6th through 8th. We're going to have game development speakers like Mark with us, but we're also going to have video game tournaments. And this year, we're happy to announce that it's at the Raleigh Convention Center and the Raleigh Sheraton Hotel, which is just across the street. So for more information, again, visit cgsummit.com or check us out on Facebook or Twitter. Thanks, everyone, so much for listening to this deep dive on Marx Myth from the Living Arts College. Attend this session. Thank you all. Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael.